Hi there, and I've had a whole load more pieces delivered to my house, and today I'm going to make the all-important air tanks on the front of the space buggy, so sit back and enjoy part 3 of building an upscale Lego space buggy. So before I get on to building the air tanks of the upscale space buggy, like with part 2, on part 3 I'm going to go through a few of the queries and questions I got in the comments from part 2. So firstly, displaying the finished model. I said it right at the end of part 2, so some people didn't catch it. I will be displaying this model at the Woking Brick Festival, which will be on Sunday, April the 13th. And hopefully, also after that, I may be also at the Southampton Brick Festival on the 3rd of May. So if you live in the UK and you're somewhere down south and somewhere near Woking or Southampton, and you happen to be coming along to the Brick Festival, come along and say hi and have a look at the model. Next, a quick word about the scale of this model. A lot of people have suggested other scales that this could be done at. And I think the key element that you have to bear in mind is the size of a stud. I'm making my space buggy at 6:1, and that's so it ties in with the upscale minifigures that Lego sell. In front of you here, I've got my model of my Lego brick henge. And as you can see on the space buggy, I'm using a 4x4 round brick as the stud. And on this model I used a 2x2 round brick. So if you're deciding to build in any upscale size, bear in mind what you're going to use as your stud, as it's a lot harder to find circular pieces that are either 3x3 or 5x5 round. Someone suggested a scale of 10:1, that would look absolutely epic. However, it obviously wouldn't tie in with the upscale minifigures that Lego make. But as I said in my reply to his comment, I think that I'd either need to win the lottery or rob a bank to buy the pieces to make that model. So 10:1 is a scale that I think I'm going to leave for someone else. And if you're interested in seeing more about my Lego brick henge, it was based around this set which Lego produced, and you can watch a whole video on me building it on my channel. Next, I've got to address the bottom of the antenna. A lot of people let me know that the size of the first part that gets wider is actually the same size as a regular stud. So this part should be 4x4, twice the size of this part. And currently I'm using this 3x3 brick. Now I said in the previous video that this part was a bit of a compromise, as the base needs to be larger than a stud, but it's not the full width of a brick. So we can't go up to 6x6 on this part, but we need to be bigger than 4x4. So the obvious size is 5x5, and Lego make absolutely nothing in a 5x5 round brick. Someone also pointed out that a Technic pulley wheel is also 3x3, so I could replace this part with a few pulley wheels and that would reduce its height and make it look a little bit more like the original antenna. However, I would absolutely love to swap this for a 4x4 stud, but I'm then absolutely stuck on what to use at the bottom. So for now, I'm going to leave it as 2x2, 3x3, and a little bit bigger than 4x4, unless I can come up with a better solution. Hi there, future Jez here, busily editing this video. And since filming and saying I was going to leave the antenna as 2x2, then 3x3, and then a little bit bigger than 4x4, I got a comment from Raveno6625, who gave me the absolutely perfect solution to this problem. So thanks to everyone, but I don't need any more suggestions for the antenna. I've ordered some Lego pieces, and hopefully by part 4 we'll have a complete perfect solution for this, with the antenna being 2x2 at the top, and then a regular 4x4 round stud, and then a 5x5 base which will fit snugly over the top of the 4x4 stud. So that's the update to the update. Now back to the original video. An awful lot of people also told me that I need to stick some axles up the middle of this antenna piece, as I've only got one at the bottom. Yes, it would strengthen it, but at the moment it's fairly strong. I can pick the entire brick up just by the antenna itself, and this is going to be on display and no one's going to be touching it, so unless someone takes a hammer to my model, I think we'll be alright for the show. I don't have any other axles in my spare parts at the moment, but if I come across any, I will stick some down the middle just to give it a little bit of extra strength. But for now, I think it's fine as it is. I also got several comments about making an upscaled box for this set. Now this is one of my prized possessions. It's set 6701. It's still in its original box. It does have a little bit of a dent in the end here, but if I put my finger inside, you can still hear the rustling of the packet inside with all those Lego minifigs. So the space buggy box was the same size as this, and scaled 6 times, that would make it about 60 centimeters long. Now I can print up to A3 at home, which would make the box about 42 centimeters long, so I am going to make one. It won't be precisely 6:1 scale, but I found good quality images of all the sides of the original box, and hopefully by the show I'll have printed some out and mocked up a large box. Next we come to the wheels, and there were a lot of comments of how on earth I'm going to build wheels. Now I don't have all the parts for this yet, and I'm not going to give the game away, but I will say that don't worry, Lego make 96 different versions of a wheel. So I'm going to show you that the model will have fully rotating wheels, and it will be able to roll along a table quite happily. And then finally, before we get building, on the last video I asked how we were going to make this blaster. I inadvertently said that this cylinder was going to be 4x4, and obviously it's a 1x1 brick, and we know that at 6x1, 1x1 becomes 6x6, so this will need to be a 6x6x6 cylinder, and there are no transparent green pieces which are vaguely circular in shape, so there was a bit of a problem about how I was going to make this. Now, I've had a play around in Bricklink Studio with several ideas that people gave me in the comments. Firstly, there's a bit of a vintage piece from the Hero Factory theme, which comes in transparent bright green, so it's not quite the right colour, but it is a cylinder in shape, and this cylinder is made up by two halves which are 3x5x8. So the actual cylinder piece is only 5x5, so a little bit too small. It's 8 studs long, so it's a little bit too long, and it has these two Technic pieces sticking out the side. So that was a good potential, but probably not the route I'm going to take. Next, I had a go at using some vintage hexagonal panels. Now, these do come in the right colour, but it does mean the finished product will be a hexagon and not a cylinder. They'd all need to be held together, and LEGO don't make any suitable transparent green plates, so I think this was also a bit of a non-starter. But the overwhelming solution that people came up with in the comments involves my custom-built Cadbury's LEGO train tanker and an awful lot of the piece that we're trying to upscale. Now, the Cadbury's tanker is a custom build I made a few years ago, and is part of a whole series of different tankers I made. So we've got our Duracell here, our Coca-Cola. I also made a Milka chocolate one, and of course the Cadbury's one. And if you're interested, you can find videos to all these builds on my channel. Now, as you can see, the Duracell one is brick built, so we don't have any cylinder pieces there. But the Cadbury's tank is special because it uses a 6x6 cylinder. And if we take one of those ends off, you can see that that is built from two half cylinder pieces which are hollow. Now, if this piece came in transparent green, it would be the absolutely perfect solution. Two of them together make a 6x6 cylinder, and it's also 6 bricks tall, the perfect size for the part we need. Now, some people suggested using solid green rather than transparent green, but this piece doesn't come in any kind of green whatsoever. However, it does come in transparent clear, and an awful lot of people suggested the same technique of using these in clear and then stacking green pieces inside it. And it's actually a technique I have seen on a previous model, but it had completely slipped my mind. So if I bought two of this part in transparent clear and then got stacks of transparent green 1x1s, they happily sit inside it like this. Now, I raided my drawer of 1x1 rounds, but I only had 6 in transparent green. But by using other colours, I worked out that you can just about fit 13s. Oh, good grief. But by using other colours, I worked out that you can just about fit... But by using other colours, I worked out you can fit 13 columns of 1x1 round bricks in each of the half cylinders. So if I order 2 of these pieces in transparent clear, and I order 130 1x1 round green bricks, I think we've got ourselves a solution. Finally, there were also some inventive solutions using coloured LEDs, green cellophane, or green paint and an airbrush. But on this project, I'm being a LEGO purist and having nothing but genuine, unmodified LEGO parts in the build. And then lastly, before I start building, a quick note on comments. For all the years that I've run this channel, I've always said that I reply to every comment that I get. And even up to part 1, that was still true. However, in part 2, I got over 800 comments in the first 12 hours. And on the Friday evening, when the video went live, I spent nearly 4 hours replying to comments. And every time I replied to a batch of comments and then refreshed the page in YouTube Studio, the list was longer than when I'd started. So if you haven't had a reply to your comment yet, I do apologise. I've gone through and I've read a lot more than I've replied to, and the ones that I've read I have given a thumbs up and a heart to, and as of filming, hopefully as the comments die down on part 2, I will get round to replying to a lot more. But to long-term channel subscribers, I've always been proud of the fact that I've replied to everyone, but with the speed that my channel is growing, I may have just got to that critical point where I'm no longer going to be able to reply to every comment that I get. And that does make me quite sad, and I do apologise for it. But after that slightly sad moment, let's brighten the mood and get building some air tanks. Now, when I originally designed this part, I did use 4x4 round cylinder pieces, and then I found out that they're fairly rare and no one in the entire UK had any for sale which were new. So I did a bit of a redesign, and now I'm using the same piece that I used for the Lego studs, and we're going to stack them on top of each other. The only disadvantage of this over the cylinders is that you get these notches all the way up the cylinder piece. And also a small note about the perils of building Lego. For this build I needed 2 of these 1x2 curved bricks, and they're really easy to come by, and these cost me 60p each. They're quite expensive, but they're still fairly common. However, I also needed 2 of these 1x1 curved bricks, and I happily added them to my model in Bricklink Studio, but when I converted that model to a wanted list in Bricklink and tried to buy the parts, I found out that these have only just been produced in light grey. They only come in 2 colours, light grey and yellow, and they've come in one set, which was a Lego Star Wars set. But worse than only coming in one set, you don't actually get that many in that one set. And then worse than that, there's only one person in the whole of the UK who is selling any of these. And then finally, even worse than that, although the 1x2 slopes only cost 60 pence, the 1x1... I can't even say it. The 1x2 slopes costing 60p, the 1x1 slopes cost £3.57 each. So as size to part comparisons go, I think this is the most expensive Lego piece I've ever bought. I bought 2 of them for this build at £3.57 each, so that is £7.14 just on 2 pieces. Which is also another reason why I'm continuing to not go along with so many commenters who want me to add tubes underneath these pieces. The cost of this project is starting to spiral a little bit, but it's still manageable, so don't worry. But I don't want to spend money on decorative pieces like the tubes underneath plates, which will never get seen in the final build, as I feel it's a bit of a waste of Lego parts and also a waste of money. So onto the build, and this is obviously the piece that we're upscaling. And if we put it up against the stud of a 1x1 round plate, you can see, yes, they are the same diameter, and that's why I'm building these out of 4x4 round bricks. So to get the height of the tank, we can use 5 of these round bricks that we were previously using for the studs. And obviously, because these are nice and smooth on top, you can't connect them together, so you have to fill up the gap in the middle. So we're going to do that by using 2x2 round plates, stick them together, pop them inside. Then that gives us a studded surface, so we can add the next one on top. Then we just do that 5 times. So 2 more plates and another brick, 2 more plates, a 4th brick, 2 more plates, 5th brick, and then to finish it off, we're going to put plates inside and put a 4x4 round plate on top, and that gives us our top surface. So obviously I need 2 of these, and if you're from the UK in good old Blue Peter style, here's one I made earlier. Now to attach these to the jumper plate, we need some plates to come out of the top of them, so we're going to attach 1x4s here. However, we do still need to fill up this gap so we can still build on top. So what I'm going to do is add 2 macaroni tiles like that, so we're still keeping our curved shape. I need to get as many studs on top as we can so we can stick the next plate on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fill up this gap with a 1x2 curved brick, so we've still got our curve, we're not sticking out from the outside of that cylinder piece. And on the other side, we're just going to add a 1x1 quarter circle tile. Then we've got as many studs as we possibly can to stick to. In fact, I have also got a round plate to go there. So we've still got some studs for the next plate to stick to, and I just need to replicate that on the other tank. And then we've got 2 tanks ready for their top. So on top of these, we're going to go back to 4x4 round plates. I'm going to add 1 on this side and then 1 on top of it, and then again same on the other tank. And then to give them their curved look on top, we've got these 4x4 round dish pieces, which is very fitting because these were used an awful lot in classic space sets. And there we've got our 2 air tanks. Now Lego is very biased towards even numbers, and because of this build we've actually ended up with a 5 stud gap across these 2 pieces. So the piece across here we're going to have to build in odd numbers, which is fairly unusual. So our first layer is going to have 2 of these 2x2 corner plates, and we're going to put a 1x3 in the middle. Then on top of that we're going to hold them together with a 1x5 and then add another 1x5 on top. Then we've got these curved bricks here, and they're going to click on the outside edges like that. A 1x3 in the middle to fill the gap, and then we're having a 1x1 plate in the middle with 2 1x2 tiles on either side, and then to give us that little bit on the top, we're just going to have a 1x1 round tile. And then these bits stick out. We've got 2 1x1 cheese slopes, which are going to click on, oops, see if I can get it, like that. And then bringing our 2 air tanks back in, that piece is going to click on the top like that and hold the 2 together, and we've got our air tanks. So the time has now come to modify the 1x2 jumper plate, and these are the 7 pieces that I need to do that. So first of all, I'm going to remove that hollow stud from the top, and remember I have got another one of these 4x4 round plates with the hole in the middle on order, so we are going to raise that up so it's the same height as a regular stud. But we're going to remove the 2 corner tiles from the back, and then we're going to also remove the 2x4s on the sides. And apologies to all the people who didn't like the original pattern and preferred them looking even like that, but we are going to turn these back round as they were in the original build in part 1. And then we're going to add a 1x2 across the top, and then 1x2 tiles next door to it. Then down the sides you've got 1x4 tiles to go here, and then the last two 1x2 plates there. And then our stud can go back on top, and we've got our attachment points ready for the air tanks. So this is where finally our incredibly expensive 1x1 curved bricks come into use, and what we're going to do is we're going to add curved bricks around the top of the stud like this, and they will obviously look a lot better when this hollow stud is raised up by another plate when that other part arrives. And then what we need to do is attach our air tanks into these two gaps here. So those 1x4 plates that were sticking out of the air tanks now slot into place onto the stud there, and then we can fill up our gaps with our lovely cheap 1x2 curved bricks and our lovely expensive, if I can put it round the right way, 1x1 curved bricks. They fill the final gaps like that, and we have our air tanks attached to our jumper plate. And comparing the original with our upscaled version, I think that's a pretty good representation. In the studio software, I tried out various different ways of doing this curved brick around the open stud, and this was the best solution I came up with, even though it had those incredibly expensive parts in it. And so that we can have a bit of an idea of what that's going to look like on the front of our buggy, we've got our 2x4 here, and that will sit on the front when it's a 2x6, just like that. Now the second piece that I'm going to build today is a very boring piece. It's the 2x6, and it's not going to look as good as this. We're not going to have all the studs on top. It's going to be very functional, but it's really exciting piece because it's going to allow us to join all these pieces together. We're going to have the start of a finished product, and by the end of the video we should have something looking rather like this, with only the steering wheel and the wheels still to complete. And these are the rather dull boring parts we're going to need to build it. We've got an awful lot of 4x4 grey plates, some 6x6 grey plates, some 2x4 bricks, and some 1x6 and 1x8 bricks. Then we've got a couple of 2x2 plates, and of course our trusty bag of tiles. So this is the basis for our 2x6. We've obviously got 12 of these 6x6 plates. Now on the back four, we're going to have our slope piece. Our front two, we're going to have our jumper plate, and on the next two, we're going to have our steering wheel. So the middle four will be tiled with studs on, and then these two, these four at the back and four at the front, will be covered by regular studs to give us our clutch power to attach the other parts. So first of all, I'm going to cover the front four and the back four with 4x4 grey plates. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous video, but just before I started this project, I did find these on my local pick-a-brick wall at my local Lego store. So I have actually hundreds of these, and they were very, very cheap compared to buying the other parts, which is why I'm using as many of these as I possibly can to save cost on this project. So first of all, I cover the front four with 4x4s, and we're going to need 9 of them, obviously. This is just how we started when we were building the 2x4, but we're going to do this twice, and then the other one will be covered with tiles on. So that's our front plate. And the same with our back plate, another 9 4x4s. All going on. And there's 6, 3 more to go. 3, 2, 1, and there's our front and our back. Now the jumper was so small it didn't need the extra support, so we had 2 plate layers, a brick layer, and then a thin layer of plates at the bottom. Whereas when I made the 2x4, I did 2 layers of plates with the smooth tiles on top, and then 1 layer of bricks underneath. So similarly for this one, to give it a little bit of extra strength, I'm going to do another layer of plates over the entire length and size of this. However, what I'm going to do, down one edge, I'm going to run some 2x2s and 2x4s, and then that's just going to give us a little bit of stagger on the joints. So when we run along and have a 4x4 there, and a 4x4 here, the next 4x4 going there will actually join to the 2x2 in the middle. So effectively I'm going to run 4x4s over the entire size, apart from 2x2s and 2x4s down each end. So I'm going to quickly do that. And there's the bottom layer of this plate complete. Now turning this over, obviously we've got this recessed area in the middle, and that's going to be covered in tiles, and most of those tiles will cover over this joint, so that'll give it some strength on the upside, and also underneath the bricks will give it some strength across that joint underneath as well. If I find that it's a little bit too weak, what I'll do is remove the last layer of 4x4s and add in another layer of 2 wide bricks down here and cross the 4x4s over the middle as well, and that'll hopefully get it just another layer of strength. So next I'm going to add all those tiles and give it a nice smooth middle, ready for those 4 studs for our upscaled minifigure to sit on. So we're going to go, yeah, that's how we do it, isn't it? There we go. So 3 along the top, then 1 in the middle, and then 3 again. And we need our 2x2s to give us some place to put these studs. And we fill in the gaps at the ends with 2x2 tiles. I'm going to repeat that again. So 3 tiles, 2 plates for the studs, 2 2x2s, a 2x4 in the middle, then our last 3 at the bottom. And then that row of 2x4s down the middle is our first layer connecting the 2 halves together. And that's pretty steady. But we've obviously still got to do that row of bricks underneath. That's going to give us a little bit more strength. So we're going to start off by putting 1x6s in the middle like that. And then we're going to put a 1x8 on either side, both top and bottom. And that gives us a start. And then all of the rest gets filled up with 1x6s. So again, 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, and then 2 on the end. And then same the other end. 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, and 2 on the end. And that's our completed row of bricks. And then the last thing I'm going to do underneath, if you remember, I said I'd got a lot of 2x4s. And what I'm going to do, where the wheels join and then the 2x4 in the middle and then the wheels at the back, I'm going to do a row of bricks just down the middle, just to give it a little bit of extra strength. Just going to do 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom there. Then I'm going to stick 2 across in the middle, and that's just going to give us an extra bit of support when we're attaching the things underneath. So now we're going to come to the part which I now know from some of the comments I've had, some people are going to find upsetting. We're going to have to adjust some of these pieces so that they fit together. So the first thing to do on the 2x4 is to get rid of the 4 studs in the middle, because they are going to be sitting underneath the 2x6 plate. So with those all gone, I do need to fill in the gaps that are left with some 2x2s. So every stud needs to be lifted up slightly, and then a 2x2 placed underneath, like that. And then we're going to fill the centre section back with 4x4s. And I'm not going to bother putting 1 in the middle just because there'll be nothing underneath for it to connect to. And then, slight fanfare please, the coming together of the first 2 parts. And this one should sit right in the middle quite happily. And we have our 2x6 joined to the 2x4. And then the 4 studs that we removed from the 2x4 can go on top on the 2x6. Oh, if I can find the middle. Like that. Then all we need to do for the rest of this video is add the slope and the antenna, and add the air tanks and the jumper plate. So at the back here we've got our 2x2 slope and our antenna, and as of the day of filming I've been reading some comments this afternoon and someone has given me a very good idea to upgrade this part here, but that's for a later video. Let's get this bit attached, and that's nice and easy because you know it's got studs all the way around underneath. There goes the antenna. And just also to reply to lots and lots of comments, that just fell off and it didn't come apart. Lots of people have been saying we do need to have some axles down the middle, but I think it's pretty sturdy as it is. But we've got our slope on the back of our buggy here. And then moving to the front, the part that I'm most excited about adding, of course, the jumper plate and the air tanks. That's going to sit on here. Squeeze that down nice and easily, and we've got all our parts joined together. Right, this is getting pretty large and pretty difficult to fit on my build desk, so what I'll probably do is I'll transfer inside to the house and then I'll give you some wider angle views so you can see the whole thing in its entirety. But I'm really pleased how this is coming on. So next video will be the wheels and the steering wheel, and don't worry, lots of people have been concerned about the wheels, but I can assure you I have a plan. Just to give you a clue, Lego make 96 different sizes of wheels, so I think we're going to be all right. Now for the steering wheel, I went through many iterations of how we could build this in Bricklink Studio software, but I have found someone who's done a much better job than I have. So I actually purchased instructions for the steering wheel, as his version is absolutely beautiful and far better than anything that I had already come up with. Last week I bought the new upscaled racing driver, and my 11-year-old daughter built that a few days ago while I was busily replying to comments. So thank you to her, known as Minifig Daisy, for doing that for me and helping with this project. And thanks to all your amazing views on this project, the ad revenue is giving me enough money that I'm going to be able to buy all the parts to build an upscaled spaceman too. So my next job is to work out all the parts I need for that and get all those parts ordered, so hopefully I can get the spaceman built in time for the show as well. And thank you to all the suggestions I've got. Some of them have helped greatly. And apologies if I don't manage to actually reply to your comment, but I will ensure that I at least give it a heart so you've got some kind of response from me so you know I've read it. So please continue with your comments. It's great to read them all and see what everyone's thinking of this project. It has all been planned out, and apart from the blaster that goes on the front of the buggy, everything has now been ordered. So unless it's a minor update and a very worthwhile update, I won't be able to take on any suggestions which give me major changes. For example, many people have suggested that I change the slope at the back so it's not built out of slope pieces, so it's completely smooth, and then it'll have its slight lip at the bottom as a regular 2x2 slope does. I'm afraid I don't have the time or the parts to rebuild that piece. If you've liked this video, you know what to do. Please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please do that also. And then you can come back and see part 4 of building the space buggy, and of course more LEGO videos.